Let's open this meeting with the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, number 2, open public forum. Anybody that's not on the agenda wishing to speak? Otherwise, we'll move on to number 3, approval of the amended agenda. I need a motion on that.
Dave, first, can I ask if we could move number 11 up to maybe right now? I need to leave at like 5 after 7. I'm retiring from the fire department tonight, so I'm gonna have to leave this meeting early, and I'd like to be in discussion with that.
Yeah, you can just amend that and,
Okay, we'll move number 11 up to, let's make it a number 4.5. Yeah. Does that work?
yep.
Okay.
So then it would be an approval for the amended agenda with changes from tonight.
Okay. I need a motion for approval of the amended agenda with the changes.
I'll make that motion.
Gary makes a motion. How about a second?
I'll second it.
Doug seconds it. Any discussion on it? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Consent agenda. Recommendation to approve the consent agenda as presented. I need a motion on that.
I'll make a motion.
Shannon makes a motion. How about a second? Fran seconds it. Any discussion on it? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Number 4.5. Number 11, or number 4.5, sorry. Police Department report. Chief Bloom. Hi, Jason.
Right. So, do we want to do the committee thing first? Do we want to do the resignation thing first?
Why don't you do your, because yours became 4.5 and then,
Okay.
Yeah,
and then that is
yeah,
5.
just do your report.
All right. So, received another letter of resignation yesterday, actually. So, want to congratulate and thank Officer Everman for his 11 years of service. He went from part-time, full-time, and ended up in the last couple of years as our investigator. He was great to have around, and it's sad to see him leave.
All right. Recommendation to accept the resignation of Officer Jamie Reverman and thank him for his 11 years of service to the Cold Spring Richmond Police Department. I need a motion on that. Fran makes a motion. How about a second?
I'll second.
Gary seconds it. Any discussion on it?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Gary.
Any idea what his future plans are?
Everybody that's recently resigned is leaving law enforcement for other endeavors.
You know, I don't know if some people realize what is actually happening, but just in the last couple of days alone, on several different news channels and in the print media, I've been reading about the number of officers that are, for a variety of reasons, you know, getting out of law enforcement, primarily, I think, because of the environment in law enforcement. And it's really sad. And we're losing thousands and thousands of police officers. It's just unbelievable.
Absolutely, and Jamie was one that surprised me. He's been a great resource to have around. So it's sad to see him go.
It's too bad.
Very good
Okay.
police officer.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other discussion?
Oh, it kills me again. Again. Oh. Just hits way too close. And I hate seeing it. I really hate to see it. I hate to see it because I really think that a lot of people in our community like to support our local police. And, it's, no matter what, it still has that underlying fear.
Oh, yeah.
No, and we get great, awesome support locally. It's just the whole
It's
climate.
there.
Right? It's there. Everybody that
I know it's there.
Yeah.
It's there as a family member, as a wife. It's there. So, I hate to see him leave. And yet I can, in the back of my mind, I can understand. So, thanks, Jamie, for your years of service.
Yeah. Any other discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Bye.
Against? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie.
Yes, thanks, Jamie, wherever you are.
So with that, last year during budget season, budgeted for a second sergeant position. My goal or my game plan right now is to get that second sergeant position in place while we're going through and filling the now open full-time spots, but to have just to have the supervisory roles filled as we're filling everything else, so we can delegate out roles as we go.
So this request is to replace him.
This request is to open an internally for a sergeant position. The investigator position would remain open right now. After we have the supervisor's role as a team, we'd figure out how to move forward and fill everything, different options, internal, external, and just how to go about it.
Okay, so my guess would be then at some point in the future, you will probably come back and make a request for half-time, full-time, whatever, if I'm understanding you correctly.
Investigator.
Where I'm going
Yes.
with this is I see that you have budgeted for this in 2021, and I don't want it to be a situation where we've lost Jamie, and now you're doing this posting for the other position, and ultimately you will net be down one full-time officer, correct?
Correct. So with this, we'll have 2 open positions to fill. And then I'd like to bring whichever officer gets the sergeant position up. So as a team, we can work to fill those 2, and one of the job duties being an investigator,
Okay, good.
if I'm explaining that
I
correctly.
want you to get back to full.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
One of the positions that you're talking about, though, is the one that we have the hiring committee. So
Correct.
Yeah.
we're really one unposted for at this point.
Yeah.
This is just to move somebody up from.
This is to move one up
a
internally.
position into,
And
yes,
then-
it's not hiring somebody new.
Correct.
it-
So we've posted for one now. Once we have supervisors in place, I'll come back and request that to fill
For-
that second one, so
Okay.
that sergeant can be a part of the
Okay,
whole process.
Great, great. All
Doug,
right.
So I guess I'm kind of lost. So this next, if we, internally, you're gonna move another sergeant,
Yes.
put another sergeant. So then down the road, you're gonna come back and ask for a lieutenant then, or I mean, an investigator, or these sergeants are gonna take up the investigative part of it?
So it's,
What am I hearing?
the investigations is a job duty right now. Jamie was working Monday through Friday, so he was extremely busy. So put the sergeants in place. Once the sergeants are in place, we will have 2 open positions and a job duty of investigator, which is included in those. It might not be one of the hires. Internally, I don't know exactly how we're going to do that yet. But with the spot that was added last time, we have currently with this resignation 2 open spots.
Can we help clarify that a little bit?
Sure. I think I'm confusing myself.
It's right now it's Jason, or it was Jason, me as a sergeant, then Jamie. We had budgeted for a second sergeant. I know we've had it approved for a long time. I think we talked about it in 2016 and 17, and just with changes, things got put on a shelf for evaluating where we were at. So it was it was Jason, me, Jamie, and we did have budgeted in 2021 for a second sergeant spot. So now with Jamie leaving, we'd still leave the investigator as a job duty, but we'd rather focus on selecting our next sergeant to get that done, hiring the 2 open spots that we have, and then determining internally what we have as an option between people we have currently, people we have as new hires, of how we want to fill that open investigator spot as a job duty. There's a stipend related in the union contract. I think it's like $150 a month, but it's not a promotion as sergeant would be as far as a pay scale. So it's things we budgeted for and anticipated paying for.
So you're basically going from chief to 1 sergeant and an investigator to the chief, 2 sergeants and an investigator.
Correct.
Is what you want to end up with.
Correct.
And that's what this recommendation is gonna be.
And I know I wasn't at the last meeting, so I want to discuss it a little more because I know you talked about hiring 2 more full-timers, but we're not going to even go down the path of trying to find part-timers. We're just going to go right to that full-timer. I mean, when you go to the full-timer, I'm just going to talk because I want to vent. We go to that full-timer, and that's a position that is all the time. Nothing against the police. You guys do a great job, but I mean, as a taxpayer, I'm looking at budgets, I'm looking at the cost. Once you create and hire a full-timer, we gotta find 40 hours. Where are we gonna find 40 hours? The only way is, in my mind, from your guys' schedule, we gotta have 3 officers on. Do we feel Cold Spring or Richmond needs to have 3 officers on at any given time, at a given time? That's the whole point of having part-timers, to fill up those hours when these guys take vacation. And in the summertime, when the school resource officer comes out of the school, to make up those hours. So I don't know why we wouldn't try to fill with part-timers. It doesn't cost the city much for part-timers, other than the jacket, if I'm not mistaken. And I know Jason has, Chris has, and our past chief Phil has said that there's no cost in part-timers, but we're not even gonna look to fill the part-time position. We're gonna just jump right to a full-timer, and I'm gonna leave it right there. So if somebody else has got a comment or something, I'm here to
I
listen.
do.
Gary?
Doug, I think, if I remember correctly at the meeting, Jason was talking about hiring, I believe it was a full-time and some part-timers?
It was 3 part-timers.
3 part-timers, I'm sorry. And so I'm the one that had asked him after some discussion, in the more perfect world, Jason, if you could hire who you wanted to hire, setting aside the budget for that, so you could structure your department properly for now and going into the future, what would that be? And he told us what that would be, and I'm the one that made the motion and was seconded to go that direction, to avoid, well, to give him what he truly believes he needs to be able to go forward more properly than dealing with all these part-time people who, I guess, just make it a complicated system to some degree.
And to go a little more in depth with that, historically, yes, we could hire and retain part-timers because there was a lot of applicants looking for few jobs. Right now, we have few applicants looking at a lot of jobs. So to retain a part-timer is difficult right now. It's going to be a stepping stone. It's probably going to be, as soon as they're done with FTO, 6 months, there's going to be 30 open jobs. In 2010, for a full-time spot that was posted externally, we got 150-ish applications. Last week, there's 2 cities in Stearns County that are very comparable. One had 1 posting, got 5 applications for a full-time spot. One had 5 open spots, got 14 applications. And those 5 open spots included investigator, SRO, and road positions. So I've got numbers printed out where I can show you how the, if you want to look at them, how the pool of applicants has shrunk significantly.
I 100% believe you. But I'm also 100% not understanding why we wouldn't at least see what's out there. You know, yeah, you say 2 local towns. Well, they're not Cold Spring. We're Cold Spring. Maybe people want to come and be a police officer. Let's at least open the door and look and see if it's a possibility. If it's not, hey, I'm the first one to admit, well, that was dumb, but let's go down the path that we have to go, and that's a full-timer. But let's at least open the door. We shut that door and we're not even opening it to even look if we got applicants that want to become part-timers. I mean, part-timers, we buy them their jacket, they have no insurance, they get no PERA, they get nothing. Once we hire that full-timer, we got to find 40 hours for that full-timer, and that's forever. And the cost and the insurance, its vacation, everything, all compounds over the top of that. So I just feel we should look at trying to see if we can get part-timers to fill the 3 spots he wanted. Of course, we gotta fill a full-timer now because we got full-timer that's retired. But let's at least take the opportunity to see if
We had
there's.
one last meeting that resigned too, yeah, full-time. There's two full-times right now open.
Didn't we fill the
We-
one
we moved one of the
full-time
part-
We moved one
Yeah.
up, yeah.
we moved
okay,
one
yeah,
up.
that's
Fill
right.
that one.
We
So we
moved
got,
one
we got
up.
one, Jamie spot's the only one open here, and then the full, part-timers, so.
How many part-timers you were thinking 3?
We've always had 4.
We've always had 4, yes. And that 3 would have put us back up to 4. My biggest concern, right now, there's so many full-time jobs. My big concern is we won't retain part-timers. And if it's a green part-timer, it costs roughly $30,000 to $35,000 to go through, and that's full-time training time, their time, equipment, and I've got a breakdown for you if you want to look at it, where a new officer with single person coverage is $80,000. So if we train 3 people, that's going to cost more than that one. Up front, that'll cost more than that one
Full-time
full-time person.
officer.
And then if we have turnover, we got to retrain. Because we're not going to get other officers with experience that are working a full-time job to come and work here part-time. That's what we've had in the past because they want to get here and they'll stay here and they'll put in hours and then they'll come. But there's so many jobs. The market is so flooded with open positions right now. My concern is we don't retain a part-time person.
And we're not even holding on to the officers we have right now. And that's the scary part. So I don't know what it's going to look like.
Well, and you're exactly right there, but part-time or full-time, it seems that it doesn't matter, because we've had 2 full-timers just retire too, so I mean, to
Yeah.
use that scenario, that, it's somewhat true, but, I mean, we got full-timers that are leaving also, leaving the force, leaving
Yeah.
policing altogether, so.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
What's that?
Can I clarify one thing? Can I clarify one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
The full-time position that is posted, that we're putting the hiring committee on, was a new full-time, so, right? So this new position, he or she would actually be taking Jamie's complement. We would be at the same number what we are now.
Would take one of
And
the
then
2.
that gives the chief time and the new 2 sergeants to figure out what to do with that sergeant's old position. So that might be, right now, we're gonna end up exactly where we were yesterday morning,
So
when we
right now-
hired this person.
Right now, the posting is for a patrol position.
Right,
The job duty of the investigator, we would decide how to fill that down the road.
and once you hire the internal sergeant, that would also have to be figured out if you have to replace that sergeant or not. So
And we would
when this person's hired, our number is gonna be exactly the same number of full-time positions.
We're still short of 3 part-time positions.
I'm talking full-time positions, Kristen, that will be at the same full-time position as we were yesterday morning before we got that resignation. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have time
We have
To figure
yeah,
out.
I mean, yeah.
what to do, is what I'm saying. I mean, to give him time to do his internal move and then make some options.
Okay, so-
Presented.
So if I'm hearing you right, this Harry is gonna take Jamie's spot, and then they'll be coming back to hire that extra one that was approved at the last meeting? Or that's already done and approved, so how can you not?
No, I'm just
Before
saying, body-wise, we're gonna end up the same as we were.
So yeah, the extra position was approved at the last meeting, and now we have an additional opening with a resignation.
Right.
So we're filling the extra position, and then you're gonna advertise for Jamie's spot tonight, or are you gonna come with that request later?
Once I have my sergeant and the second sergeant in place, then as a group, we'd come together, figure out how to go about filling that spot, and then come back to you guys to approve opening that up.
I get you now.
Okay, did I
I don't know where we were.
You
Okay.
did not,
Did I do a motion on
no.
that?
Well,
Okay.
I thought.
Motion not on, he did,
I didn't
you
read
didn't
that
get a vote on
recommendation.
Jamie's.
I didn't
Oh,
read
yeah,
the
you did. You did not read the recommendation of
Okay.
number,
And
of
just
B.
one more thing, I told
Yep.
Jamie I wasn't gonna accept his resignation, so I don't know how that affects the vote.
I actually wanted to say no also, but
I don't think he's coming back after 2 weeks, but
I don't think it would matter, so.
So you read that recommendation, but you have not voted. You got a motion.
Did I make
Well,
one?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Fran got the motion and
voted.
Gary,
I know I second
yes.
that.
To approve the internal
which one?
post?
No, to
No,
accept
no.
Jamie's
Oh,
resignation.
we did.
We did that.
Oh, we did
We're
on
done
that,
with
one. Then you
that.
have not read the next
We were
one.
moving to the next one.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think the discussion came before the motion, so.
Correct.
I will read this recommendation. To approve the request to post internally for a second sergeant position. I need a motion on that.
I'll make a motion.
Gary makes a motion, Fran seconds it. Any discussion on that? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Okay,
And then with that, when we open up a full-time officer position, we have to have representatives from each city. It is Administrator Tomashette from Richmond and the Mayor Jim Hemish from over there. Spo and myself, I was thinking Bridget from here, and then one of the council members, whoever wants to be on that committee, was what I am envisioning, but it's up to you guys for discussion.
Who is the liaison to the police department?
is there one? I don't know, there is.
No, I don't believe there
I
is
don't think
one.
there is.
No.
There isn't one this time. This,
Okay.
Is this gonna take place in the evenings or not? Or is it gonna be more during the day?
So right now, the applications or the posting is ending on May 7th. I believe that's the
Yep.
Friday. Discussion over there was the following Wednesday, the 12th worked, and time frame, I guess day, evening hasn't been decided, but I believe both of them were open.
I mean, I would volunteer unless somebody else prefers to. Leave it up to you.
'Cause I would say I'd do it, but not during the day, and I guess if Gary would wanna do it,
Yeah.
that's.
No, I mean,
I know.
like, if Gary can do it during the
No,
day, then
But
I'm good
That's why I
with it.
volunteered. I mean,
That's
if it's
like-
during the day or the evening, it doesn't bother me. I mean, but whatever.
Okay, then we'll do that. Recommendation to approve Bridget Murphy and Gary Tyson to serve on the hiring committee with Richmond representatives, with the Richmond mayor and city administrator. I need a motion on that.
I'll make a motion.
Shannon makes a motion, Doug seconds it. Any discussion on that? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. There you go.
That's all I got unless you guys have questions for me.
You guys got anything?
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you guys very much.
Yep.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going on to number 6, Resolution 2021-15. A resolution approving or denying a special use permit for 101 Red River Avenue South. Seth and Katie Olson, hello again.
Hi. Hello.
Okay, you want to give just a brief, whatever you're doing here, just so that some of these people don't
Sure.
really
I'm
know
also a
yet.
professor, so I'll try to keep it short. I'm not good at that. So we would like to utilize our home, which is just across the road there, as a group home facility and provide services to up to 2 adults with disabilities. So we are going through the process of licensing our home. And through that process, we had discovered through communication with Ms. Murphy that our home is commercially zoned. And so we went through the process of allowing special use permit at that in a
C1.
C1 zone to allow up to 6 residents to live in a commercial residential site. And so our request is now to approve our special use permit to move forward with that change in ordinance to allow us to proceed.
All right, I'll read the recommendation. recommendation to approve resolution 2021-15, a resolution approving or denying a special use permit for 101 Red River Avenue South for Seth and Katie Olson. I need a motion on that.
What, can I say something?
Yeah.
What did the planning people say?
Actually, the planning commission's findings are in the resolution that was attached to your document. They
Yep.
did recommend approving it, and that it did meet all the requirements in our ordinance for special use.
Okay. So, on the motion then, I guess.
Okay, Brad makes a motion. How about a second?
That's an motion to approve.
To approve?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Gary seconds it. Any discussion on it? Like they said, planning did approve it. Any other discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. There you go.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Bridget, do we have to come back?
Nope, you're done.
All right.
I'll send you a copy of it, so you don't even have to come over to get it.
I'll walk over. Thank you.
Ah, the toughest one of the evening.
Number 7, revolving loan agreement with Stone 3000, Alec Tomovich?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, thank you. It was for a long time Tomovic, but actually it's Tomovic.
It won't take.
All right, you want to let everybody know what you're
So yeah,
looking for?
thank you very much for letting me be here. Unfortunately, I didn't bring the pamphlet, which I showed to ADA. It's Stone 3000 is in this town from 2004. Actually, the first business which was put next to the brewery. It's kind of grandfather. Some of those people actually had a golden shovel. We are still here. We're still paying taxes, and we're not making millions, but it's a high-tech consulting business supporting the stone industry around the United States. And I think this was the time when I had to decide to step forward as a business and joking about being 60 years old. I was tempted to go to Florida and do some fishing rather than do some business. But I think I think there is a fantastic community here, and my experience with Cold Spring is good. So I decided to move forward and invest in the combine this experience I have and the business we have here in Cold Spring and my property, and put some high tech. It was already high tech, but was more on a consulting base. Now I wanted to bring a high tech CNC milling machine with the two double screens. On one side you can prototype, another side can do the producing. And being me, computer science guy and mechanical engineer, I'm PE, professional engineer, so I have a background in engineering, have a background in computer science, have a property, beautiful community. I wanted to, and then COVID, which happened last year, I'm one of those guys who like to take masks down and fight. So I decided to, go forward and see what we can do. There is not so much, the worst case scenario, I don't pay the machine is completely new, and it's good machine, so it can go on the market or whatever. So there is no bankruptcy or there is no worst case scenarios per se. My property is paid in full. Stone 3000 paid taxes to the Cold Spring for a long time. You can check the books. Everything is on the spot paid. I live in Cold Spring. That property is paid. So there is my history is very good. And of course, Cold Spring only decided. Machine is high tech, to make it story short. It's kind of step in future. I want to say be proud. My boy works for NASA too. So who knows, he's the electrical engineer in NASA in Cape Canaveral. So we may have some NASA jobs here. I don't know, this is a long shot. At the moment, my son treats me as a ATM machine. But anyway, so there is a lot of possibilities, and I think it's good momentum. So thanks to Cold Spring, I got $3,500 help last year for so I decided don't spend that money on the. I like my beer, but I wanted to use that cash and combine with something else and get the machine in. So return back to the community rather than just take it in my pocket. So yeah, machine is fantastic. I don't have any huge contracts. I cannot come here and say I'm gonna make this community. I'm not gonna send SpaceX to the moon, Mars, but I think I will be continue paying my taxes and be good citizen, and so.
All right. I'm going to read a recommendation. Recommendation to approve the revolving loan agreement with Stone 3000 and authorize the EDA president and secretary to sign all appropriate documents as needed. I need a motion on that.
I make a motion.
Fran makes a motion. How about a second?
Second.
Doug seconds it. Any discussion on it? Otherwise, all those in favor?
I'm on
Go
the
ahead.
ADA, and we
Yep.
went through all of that.
Yep.
It's a good deal. So-
Yeah, we did. We approved.
So,
All right. Any other discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alex.
I'll get you copies of all those after they're signed tomorrow. Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, good luck.
Yeah. Fire Department report. Chief Weber. Hey, Smoke. How's it going?
We're going. How about you?
Good, good, good.
Just a report from, I didn't make it last month, but March amount of calls, we had 39 calls in the month of March. Right now, we're at 31 for April, so we're busy. I think we had 8 of them on Saturday of this last weekend, so it's been busy stuff. A lot of medicals. Other than that, everybody, it's been, grass fires have been good. There's never,
Good as in.
Well,
They're
one or
there,
two.
Because they were good.
Well,
Under
yeah.
control.
Well, 1 or 2 versus what Doug and Gary, when you guys were on, you had probably 15 in one day, one time. It's been, car accidents. We've had a few of them on 23 and stuff, but department's running fine right now. I should say good, not fine. It's running good. And we're at 29 right now as our department, so
29.
29.
Someone's retiring?
Members? Members?
Somebody retired.
Yeah.
Officially?
And maybe a half an hour.
Yeah, maybe in about 15 minutes.
But
Bittersweet, but
Well-
it's time.
Well, then I'd like to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll put it on next month's, or next council
Okay, well,
meeting
I'll
agenda.
catch you this time.
We can say,
and next
we could
time.
say thank you now. though.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
okay.
we can still
I'll catch
say
you this
thank you.
time and next time. So thank you.
30, huh, Doug?
Yeah.
How
31?
many?
31 years old.
31
31
years?
years. Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
thank
Thank you,
you.
Doug.
Thank
greatly
you for all
appreciated.
your years.
A lot of years of service to the
So
community.
I believe right now our pumper should be here by the end of July,
Okay.
the way it's going right now, I guess. Firefest is pretty much still up in, we're planning, but we're not jumping too far ahead. It all depends on what the
Yeah.
recommendations are gonna be or the restrictions. As of right now, it doesn't look good, but.
They're talking about having a state fair this year, so I don't
Yeah.
know.
That's in August, the end of August.
Yeah, that's, that's a month
But those
after,
other towns that
after
moved,
this.
like Winstead moved theirs out to August.
Did they?
Right?
Yeah.
Instead
Moved
of
to middle
June, so
August.
we don't have that luxury. But we'll see how it goes. We'll find out in the next couple of weeks what's going to go on. So there's a lot
How
of,
long do you got before you can,
before we have to make our mind up,
yeah.
couple weeks. 2 to 3 weeks maybe. Find out, have to make some more phone calls, but
Well, I hope you guys can have it.
yeah.
Miss another year, it's gonna hurt.
It's a long, long weekend. But anyway, other than that, I have nothing. You guys have anything for me?
You guys got anything for Dan?
Nope.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Dan.
thanks, Dan.
Have a good night.
Keith.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Number 9, Public Works Director Report, John Stevie, along with Brian Lynchen.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Hello, John.
Well, I got no request for action tonight, so we'll take a break from that. Just a few updates. Hydrant flushing went well. We did notice that with city well number 3 shut down now from the DNR, there was a high frequency of phone calls for lower pressure, and that had a lot to do with it just because there's another 500 gallons per minute or 400 gallons per minute that wasn't going into the system while we were flushing. So it was a little harder to keep up with the well pumping. But we got through it. We dealt with the phone calls, City Hall. Thank you to them. And between my cell phone and my office phone going off, I would say there was upwards of 500 phone calls. But we got through it. Everything went well, so I want to thank my staff for that and getting it done in 2 days. Otherwise, we've just been air patching. I'm sure you guys have noticed a lot of that. The streets are bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say Main Street needs to get resealed the way that thing looks.
Yeah, Red River's due with the county this year to get seal coated, so that'll be happening this summer. Main Street's not on the agenda yet, but maybe the older parts where we're air patching and stuff, but, you know, we got those on the CIP for some road projects in the future. Just let the taxpayers take a little break for a while.
Yeah.
But there's some rough spots in town, and I told the guys we're gonna keep the air patcher rolling until we are 100% complete with town, because we do share that machine with Richmond and Rockville, so they're chomping at the bit to get it, but we're not letting it go until we're done, so. Actually, normal years, we use, when we seal coat in town, we end up sweeping up all that grit, the loose stuff, and usually every year, we can just about complete the whole town with air patching with the excess grit we sweep up. This year, we'll probably be hauling in another 20 to 30 yards of grit. Just to make up for it, so. Shows the condition of some of the older roads in town, they're rough, but we'll get through it. Water treatment plant, I was up there today, Ryan Capel came up from the cities, and we're in the process now of more so picking out colors, picking out tile colors for the interior of the bathroom, little things like that. They got the foundation framed up for the basement pour. They'll be pouring that probably on Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, so that's cruising along pretty good. If you guys do want to stop up there and take a look at it, you can. You can see in there, it's pretty cool how it all comes together. Lots of rebar. So, outside of that, that's pretty much all I got. And I mean, I'd also like to thank Reverman for his service here, because Public Works Department does work a lot with the PD. Sad to see him go as a daytime officer. We deal a lot with him, so thank you to him. But that's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
I got an award for you.
Oh,
Oh, really?
Oh, this is a surprise.
Spring wastewater.
well, don't be too surprised.
No, we are all surprised.
Does a trophy go with it?
Yeah.
Certificate of commendation.
All right. Cold Spring Wastewater Treatment Plant.
Congratulations.
All right, we'll hang this on the wall down there.
Congratulations.
Well, congratulations.
Figured it was gonna be bowling, but.
If I get a bowling one sitting up here, I'll make sure I get it.
Make sure you get it.
Anybody got anything for John?
No.
All right. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
We'll go on to number 10 then. City Engineer Report, Brian Lynchen.
Mr. Mayor and Council, good evening.
Good
Hi, Brian.
I think we had first thing on here was the public safety building design scope and fee I had gotten over to Bridget, just to do the basically everything outside the building, the parking lot, the storm water, the sewer water, all of those aspects of the project. So I think, I don't know, was it in the packet?
Yep.
Okay, so I'd be happy to answer any questions on that.
All right. Recommendation to approve design scope and fee for the public safety building. I need a motion on that.
I'll make the motion.
Doug makes a motion. How about a second?
I'll second that.
Shannon seconds it. Any discussion on it? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
Thank you. Then just some project updates. Things are getting rolling as the weather's getting nicer. So Blue Heron is kicking back up again. They were gonna do some gravel work. I haven't been out there this week, but they got some staking for clean up some gravel, and then curb will be following shortly by roadway and everything else. So that should be, probably late spring, kind of wrapping up early summer. So I know they're probably itching to get in there and get some homes built as well, so.
That's what they do.
County Road 158, we'll be getting, Dan Salo will be coming back through, looking at all of the properties, basically looking for, cracked concrete, grass that's not growing, other issues with the landscaping, the way the black dirt was done, all those things. So he'll be spending some time walking the project, looking for any of those things that crept up over winter, or maybe that got buttoned up too quick in the fall. Looking to get those corrected this spring. And then
Pipes too high out?
Yeah.
Do they can come down, right?
Yeah, if there's pipes sticking up, they'll either push them down, or if they
Okay.
have to do something else to fix them, we'll get the curb stops level, we'll get all those things basically buttoned up. It's nice to let it sit over the winter, just to let you get a good frost and thaw, let things settle out. So he'll be doing that in the next couple weeks. Paving probably early June typically. Want to let it get a little bit warmer before that base course goes down, or the wear course, and then we'll get the final striping and everything else out there. So.
All right.
Let's see here, wells 8 and 9, we're doing startup on May 5th, so I think that's next week. So we'll get wells up and going, get water to the brewery, and then get that and work all the bugs out of that, and then eventually then work on getting well 5 back on our system. So the sanitary lift station water main project for the brewery, just finishing up kind of the connection to the plant, looking at some options for how it gets connected to the plant. We want to make sure that in the interim condition, we're gonna take some water from the distribution center and pipe it directly, use the new piping that we're putting in place for the future to run that directly to the plant to relieve some of the load off of Frogtown, off the main lift station. So just looking at some options for that plant connection, because it is coming in at a lower elevation than what it will be in the final conditions. So trying to come up with some options so we don't drain the force main every time the pumps shut off, which the lift station engineers don't like. So it creates a lot of problems. So just working through some different solutions on that. So then that'll be coming to you for approval, and then going out for bidding, constructing, and this summer into the fall. The work through the golf course will be later fall, so we don't disrupt them as much. Also working with John and Bridget on obtaining easements and other things for where that's going. John kind of hit the water plant, hit the highlights there, and then the industrial pretreatment, we're just working on the 30% design right now. Next week is the deadline for the vendor to get everything, all of their information to us, and so we're starting to, what they've gotten to us so far, we're just starting to work on laying out the design, kind of, how big are the tanks, how big are the buildings, kind of rough layout of the buildings, looking at all the components that are going to go into it. So at that 30% design, then we'll get that report to the city. We'll look through it, we'll start talking with the regulators, and then once all that's good, then we just keep progressing through design through the summer. That's looking to probably be bid, this time next year, starting construction, late spring, early summer of '22.
All right.
That's all I had on
That's
my
it?
list.
Anybody got anything for Brian? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Then we'll skip number 11 and go right to 12. city administrator report.
All right. First thing, we have the community showcase coming up on May 22nd, I believe it is. We've always had a booth. We'll be taking to EDA. I'm requesting, do you want to have a city booth again that we can share with EDA? And if so, I will get that in, and then we'll figure out a schedule on who wants to be at the booth at the various times. It's 9 to 12:30, so I'm thinking be a 8:30 to 10 shift and 10 to 12:30 shift, but I'd get that out to all of you. So if you're okay with that, I will send that that request or our
Yes,
At-
we're okay with it.
I
I'm
think-
okay with it.
yeah.
I
Okay.
think we should have it.
I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
Of course, we're gonna be.
And you'll be, some of you will be able to schedule for it as,
We'll
Mhm.
figure
Okay.
it out.
Yeah,
When I get-
I should be there all day probably, so. We should get some of that, like what city engineers doing, stuff like that out there too.
yeah, I
then.
was thinking that and where we're at with the fire and police station
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
We'd bring
Yeah.
some of that. Yep,
Should we put John's award in there too?
yeah, we should.
Yeah,
Yeah, right up in the
we
front.
should put that right in the front.
All right, so I'll get that submitted. The next one is Corey's still working on getting his bids for construction costs, so he can look at construction, land, et cetera, and then figure out what's the, he will come back, obviously, as he said, to see what kind of assistance he'd be looking for you to discuss what kind you'd be willing to give him, and we'll start that process. But I have not, I think he was getting bids either last Friday or this coming Friday. So I haven't heard from him, so I'm assuming it's this coming Friday. Recordy Trail update. The LCCMR money that they didn't approve last year, they're now finally, they've approved it in the House and they approved it in the Senate, but they're not the identical bill, so they have to have committee. They have to do a conference committee. Some of the things that are making it at issue don't relate to trail funding. It relates to other types of funding that they do through that. And so we just got an email today asking us to submit as much information as we can about our work plan and our projects so that when and if the governor signs the bill, we're ready to go on July 1 to start our project and start getting those funds to finish Recordy Trail between Keith's Shell and Rockville. So we were a little worried about that, but they seem to have, this is a good year for us, so let's hope that keeps going. Next one. So we've gotten a bunch of calls, and I think I'll try to summarize my memo because it kind of laid it out. So I'm going to take this off. During general election years, so, the even years, 22, 24, this year was 20, or last year, political signs can be in a yard, and they cannot be regulated by the state or the city or the county or anyone. They have to be out of the right of way, but they can be in anybody's yard. They can be any size, and they can have as many as they want for 46 days before the primary to 10 days after the election. After that, any speech that isn't commercial, so like, a business sign is a commercial sign, for sale sign is a commercial sign. Any sign that's not that type is called non-commercial speech. And so those signs that are a candidate's name convert from a candidate to a non-commercial speech. And the city can only regulate commercial speech to location, size, the number of them. You can't regulate as a city what's on that sign unless it meets some of those specific, profanity, some of those things that are not considered speech. But the signs that we have around town are not those. The Recordy Proud parent, our police ones, are even the political ones that are there. Our zoning ordinance does not regulate number, size, or any. We actually don't allow anything in a residential district. So all of those really should not be up. But that's not realistic. And I don't think you as a council would want to tell everyone, take all those signs down. Yes.
Excuse me, did you say that we do have an ordinance?
We do not regulate them at all. And since we don't regulate them, they're technically not allowed, which is a violation
so
of the right to have non-commercial speech.
So if you don't have something to address it, then the default is you shouldn't allow it.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to
Yep.
understand that.
And so I think I'd like to take to the planning commission this issue and kind of come up with sizes and number and obviously location is front yard because who's going to put a sign in the backyard? No one's going to see it except. So, and I think that will give people a better understanding of the difference between commercial and non-commercial, what can be regulated, what can't be regulated. So I'd like to bring this to planning and have them come up with recommendations on how to treat these signs when it's not a general election. Anytime, well, all year round, non-commercial speech. How do we how do we want to allow people the right to have that, but also not have 25 in a yard or not have 100 in a yard? So what I'm really looking for right now is just to approve the.
Yes. By ordinance, is a flag considered a sign?
A flag is considered a sign, and certain flags are exempt from any regulation, like the U.S. Flag and the state flag. But otherwise, flags are also non-commercial speech. So we'd talk about that as well. So
Can you be specific regarding your opening statement? I've received a bunch of calls.
sure.
How many is a bunch?
I probably have had since November 8 or 9 calls and asking us to regulate because we're supposed to, but we don't really have. Our regulation is to take everything down, and I'm not real comfortable with that.
Because that's the default.
That's the default.
So for example, if somebody this evening made a motion and there was a second and it was approved, let's say the motion was to not regulate signs, residential signs in the city of Cold Spring, and just to leave people do what they would like to do and be done with it. That is something we could consider.
I think yes, but we'd still have to write an ordinance that says we're not doing that. Because right now, by not doing
Oh, no,
anything,
I
yeah,
understand.
yeah. And then we'd have to have a
Absolutely.
public hearing and all that. But yes.
Yeah, because I think personally, it's absolutely ridiculous that we have over 4,000 people in this community and possibly 8 people are upset. And I would venture to guess and even bet a $100 bill that those 8 people are upset about Trump signs. That would just be my guess. And I just think we're going down a really bad slope here when we're going to start talking about more regulations in this community to the extent that you can't fly a flag, like say that supports fire or police, or you might not be able to have a sign in your yard. So when they have a walk on a Saturday morning to remember people that died of cancer, you couldn't do that possibly, because we've got a small little bitty group of people who are upset about something, a burr under their saddle, and now we should legislate this thing so you can't have anything in your yard, which I think would be absolutely ridiculous. To me, this is a non-issue. We've got a hell of a lot better stuff to deal with in this town, this city, and this council that start having discussions about regulating something as simple as a sign in your yard. And I would be willing to make that motion. I don't know where it'll go, but I think it's just ridiculous. That's my 2 cents.
But that was 25 cents.
Well, it was
It was
25,
a
yes,
little
you're
bit.
right. I mean, come on, let's get real. So we've got a few signs. Maybe one's a Trump, one's a Biden, and maybe one is a, we wash houses, Dave, like the house on the corner has a sign. You know, come on.
Well, that's a commercial sign.
commercial.
And that
Yep.
shouldn't be in a residential
Right.
area.
Yep, so that's actually not allowed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Currently, none are allowed.
well,
Not in
Yeah,
residential.
not-
Nothing,
not in
absolutely
residential.
nothing.
And
Right.
to do, and Gary, and to do what Bridget is saying you can have that Trump sign in there. Right now, you can't.
I understand that.
See, now.
Yes,
if
no, I
we-
clearly
If we did this
understand that.
ordinance, had planning do it, we could tell you, you can have them in there, so that when somebody calls, no, they're okay, because they can.
Well,
Ordinance.
you
Yeah.
must
And
have.
that's, I guess,
You either didn't understand or you missed the first part of what I said, and that
Yeah.
is,
yes.
I think as a council, we should first of all forget about handing it to planning. Second of all, I think we should, for example, tonight, make a motion, get a second, and see if we can get votes in favor of having an ordinance that basically says, other than profanity and blah, 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 some qualifications, put whatever sign you want in your yard.
And we can discuss.
I mean,
it
I'm
with
just,
planning.
I'm
Right.
speaking out loud, of course,
Yeah.
about how I feel. I just think it's ridiculous.
do
that we're
we
going to
have
get
to
to
have
that
a
point.
public hearing on something about this matter, about adding an ordinance?
Yeah,
or-
we'll
okay.
eventually have a public hearing. If we add any language to the zoning ordinance, we're gonna
Okay,
have to have a public
so-
hearing.
So either way, it's gonna have to go through the whole. So planning will have to have a public hearing about it.
Mhm.
So it has to anyway.
Well, I understand that, but
Yeah.
let's just jump to the end of the story and let's vote in favor of having an ordinance that says, other than something that is profanity, and if there's any other, call it bad things we can think of relative to that.
Right.
Nudity or whatever, but other than that, feel free to post what you want in your yard, and we'll have a public hearing, and whatever that results in, and move on with life.
So,
Well, how about, could I
Absolutely.
suggest something? Why don't we, I'm not sure, so I want to follow up with the city attorney on an ordinance that allows you to do what you're asking, let them be
Free.
free,
Yeah, a little
free-ish.
freedom,
Right.
Yeah.
And how that would look, like what language we would use to say, make sure we get the proper language.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
that would be very important.
So
I'm not
that would be
expecting
something
you to
I'd
do that.
wanna, well, why don't you, yeah, if that's the route it goes, it would then I would probably just bring that to a public hearing at planning. If I can get language that meets whatever gets voted on here and gets passed, I will work with the city attorney to draft language that meets that
Okay,
motion.
so if someone made a motion that said, I make a motion that Bridget, the city administrator, consult with the city attorney to develop language specific to this item, and that be brought to the council as soon as
To
possible for our review.
to planning.
For a
It's
public
gotta
hearing.
go, it's gotta go through planning anyway.
It has to go through.
No, it has to go to a public hearing.
It
It
has
can
to go
come
to
in here.
public hearing.
No, I
Yeah,
understand
it
that.
can come
Why-
here.
Oh, it does not go through planning.
It can come right here.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
council's going to make the ultimate decision
Yeah.
anyway.
Right.
and,
Okay, so
uh,
it just has to come. here.
and then Bridget can bring that back to the city council. We'll review that language, have a discussion, and decide what to do at that point.
I can second that motion. I'm comfortable with that. I'm
Gary?
comfortable with what the city attorney will say, with the freedom that we are possibly, allowing out there for signs.
Yeah.
So,
Gary makes a motion, Shannon seconds it. Any discussion on it? Brad, you want 2 cents worth?
Yes, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, ordinances are made, I always thought, our police department has to enforce them. So if, let's just say, Jason got called to a house all full of Trump signs and stuff, at least we should have something that also helps Jason. Jason would go out there and there's people, the neighbors would say, well, you gotta get rid of them. we also gotta give Jason something that he says it's in the ordinance, those people can put anything on their lot without being harassed. So I would like to see that in the ordinance, just to help the police department. I don't know if that's, because you follow the ordinances is what you follow, so.
Correct. And me and Bridget have had many discussions about it. And I think it's more of a zoning thing and not a law enforcement thing. So
But
I
you're
think
gonna
it'd be
be
more of a
that-
letter from the city is the way I
Yeah.
see it, than it would be law enforcement responding. From the law enforcement aspect of it, it's a freedom of speech thing, and it comes down to a zoning issue on what the city wants to allow, so it wouldn't really be a law enforcement issue on
But
this
you're
one.
gonna get called, and if it's a sticky situation,
If we have to go there to mediate a conversation, I guess you could
Yeah.
say, between neighbors, definitely we will go
Yeah.
do that. But as far as what they have on their property,
yeah. But you also need something to go by. I mean, you can't make it your decision and walk over to the neighbors, well, you gotta get rid of those Biden signs, you know, and that's your own, and we don't want that either, you know.
correct.
We want something that follows whatever we make the law or something, or whatever you want to call that. That, again, the police department doesn't get put in a situation that all of a sudden, all the thank you police department things are coming down because right away they think you're going to run that. So I
Mine
would
won't.
like to see
Mine
something
won't.
to protect those people and something to help, so,
So Fran,
yes.
my assumption would be that between Bridget and the city attorney probably more so, would develop a paragraph or let's say a proposed ordinance that will follow the law and help us clearly understand what can we legislate against and what we cannot. And then if we discuss that along with Jason's involvement, and we ultimately agree that that's what it will be, whatever that is, then to me, that is what law enforcement would use if they're called to someone's residence who's gotten completely out of control, or at least the perception is.
And the way
And-
things are going now is like we're losing our freedom, and that's.
Well, and that's the thing.
where you're going.
Yeah, that's the thing that
Yes,
really
that's why-
upset me from the beginning
A
is,
little
you know,
bit of
we do
freedom.
have freedom of speech, and,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of different factions that are certainly trying their very best to take that away from all of us, and it, you know, and so I get pretty,
Well,
concerned when
and I
that
agree
happens.
with what you were all saying and everything, but all of a sudden there was a lot of signs, and it obstructed the view for traffic, you know. We also should have something, you know, it's like, okay, your signs are good, but you got them, you know, if it causes an accident or something, you know.
yeah. Well, I think Bridget did talk about keeping them out of the right of way, which I think would help avoid the traffic situation. But yeah, I would believe that whatever the city attorney would create is what we would start with. And, you know, we obviously can't do things that are illegal, but use that as our,
But I agree with you, it's like, enough is enough, you know? And sooner or later, some of those signs, the weather's gotta get them, and they'll rot and fall over.
But it's not just those signs. I mean, remember last summer, that
Yeah, no,
incident with, I mean, that was a large display.
yeah.
There was-
If it were smaller, it might have not been as obvious of,
I assume I know what you're talking about, but then isn't
The-
that also an issue of freedom of speech?
right. Yeah, that's
It
why,
is.
I mean, the rest it is, and they could, yes, but you can, what I was originally proposing, and I'm perfectly fine to see if there's a way to do it how your motion, it's that we, you know, forget that it's a Trump sign, but it could be a sign that everyone absolutely hates, and they'll be calling you.
I don't mind that.
Okay.
If it violates our right to freedom of speech, well, then we have to uphold the Constitution. We can't just
Right.
say, because that bothers you a little bit, yes, the city council is going to create an ordinance to make you happy, but we're going to violate.
Well, I mean, like, they
I
have
understand
500 in their yard.
Yeah, I understand that, but
Yeah.
do you think that the city attorney's gonna write something like that? No. She's gonna be reasonable, logical, and go within what typically seems to be a standard. And if she does, she does. Whatever it is, we'll review it and we'll determine if we want to do something along those lines, or if we want to drop it or whatever. But just to hand it off to planning and say, here, come up with some ideas on how we can regulate signage and take away more of our freedom of speech, and then we'll look at it and we'll probably pass it because we've got 8 people in town who are frustrated. No,
Okay.
we're not going to work that way. And by the way, folks, if you're listening, my term is coming up in a year and a half, and you're very welcome to get on the line and go out and campaign and
So,
sit down and do what you like.
I think we beat a dead horse on this
Yeah.
one.
We sure have.
So I think, in my opinion, Fran's dying over here. He's laughing.
Yep.
And Jason is too. We got to have some humor.
So I think that you take it to the attorney,
Yep.
work up some language, see if we can just get something with freedom of speech. Something that has some regulations and ordinances, so that there is some some limitation
motion and a
of
second,
right?
something.
Yeah.
Yep, there's a motion.
So it's time
and a
to
second.
vote.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's
so,
just discussing it.
yeah,
No, I
so
understand.
that's the,
She's
so,
beating the horse.
beating the dead horse, it's done, we're gone.
Continuing to beat that horse.
Isn't that the same as dog barking? Was that ever solved, dog barking,
As a
Or
freedom of
did I
speech
bring
issue?
something up I
Oh,
shouldn't?
God, okay,
Oh, no, I'm turning into a Gary.
okay, all right.
Sorry, Dave.
Okay,
All right,
is there,
Dave,
there
get your gavel out. It's time for the gavel.
Please.
Yeah,
It's right
it's
there.
actually,
We're gonna
Get
have to
this
get
thing
Doug
under
back in
control.
here.
Here we go. All right.
Come
there
on.
we go.
okay, is there any other discussion on this, not the dog barking?
Yeah,
No.
correct.
Signs, no, there isn't.
Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
I,
Against? Motion carried.
And he was a little late on that one.
that's right. He's so
He's
agreed.
still laughing.
I'm turning into
He's
a
got tears.
Okay. I'm gonna have to rewatch this to figure out what that motion was. So I can-
You just need to go to the city
Yeah.
attorney and
Yep.
get some language,
Yep.
Let's get
Yeah.
something that protects everybody.
freedom of
Yep.
speech.
Then I'm on my other. Last week I met with the vice president of the League of Minnesota Cities Board of Directors, Dee Love, who's the mayor of Centerville, and the assistant director of the League of Minnesota Cities. Now I've lost his name. With 2 other cities, and they kind of were touring around and asking people how the pandemic was, what could they do for everybody. We talked about dealing with virtual meetings. They wanted to know how difficult was it to operate in the last year with buildings closed and staff remote if people were. And so it was just a real good chance to meet in person with the Sauk Rapids City Administrator and the Melrose City Administrator and hear what they're doing. We've had virtual meetings on and off the last year, some of the regional cities, but it was good to kind of reconnect. Member Tyson was going to come with me. It really didn't have a lot of action items come out of that meeting, but it was a good time for them to hear what we need. And we talked about things like we need more advocacy for or training offered from the league to us for critical incident or critical incident communication. We've all seen how other cities have responded when something's happened in their communities. And you get it maybe at your new council member training or your mayor training, but then you don't go to new council member training. And so they're looking at possibly doing that. That was our big takeaway is with everything that's been going on in the last 6 months, especially the last 2 weeks, critical incident training would be helpful. And with that, that's it.
Anybody got anything for Bridget? Otherwise, we'll move on to number 13, commission updates, planning commission.
I missed
You
that
missed
meeting. Were you there, Bridget?
We had
Oh,
the
I'm sorry,
discussion,
Dave.
yeah, we had the
Yeah.
discussion with Seth and
Katie.
Katie. I was thinking Amy, but it's not Amy. Seth and Katie, everything worked out good there. Other than that, I don't think we really did anything that
You guys talk
day.
about signs?
No, we didn't
Oh,
talk
okay, just
anything
checking.
about science. No. Nope.
Just kidding.
We
All
didn't
right.
in EDA either.
EDA,
EDA,
EDA, we're starting to visit
yes.
businesses and we're trying to promote EDA monies or something or
Yep.
help our businesses, our local ones to get
Yep.
going if they need it. And I guess after this, whatever all happened, like we just toured Grumpy's, you know, and he bought it and a week later they had her shut down already, you know. To help like something like him, you know, he was, guy, I mean, what more devastating as it is to buy a business and all of a sudden you can't,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So. and
But
then
he was
we're,
pretty upbeat about it yet.
Yeah.
You know, it was frustrating, but
Yeah, and it was surprising at that meeting with him that he took it all with a grain of salt.
Oh, yeah.
Just, I expected him to get on us, but he really didn't. He understood everything, and yeah, it just, I was, you know, ready to, you know, like defend something, but it wasn't at all. He was really, so now we're going to go on to another.
Mhm.
And maybe then I will get my watch. But I missed. I'm turning into a Gary.
You are, aren't you? It's all
well, if you'd
right.
like to put your phone number out there, you sure can.
park board?
Park Board had the tour of the parks last Monday, not yesterday, but last week.
Okay.
It was really chilly. But looked around, reviewed what's going to happen at Pioneer with the grant from Pilgrims and budget for the skate park. Talked about some of our walking trails at the various parks are starting to buckle and maybe start putting some of those trails on a CIP to get them slowly fixed. And anything else? I think that's it. That's all.
Okay. How about Rocory Trail?
We did not have a, pardon me?
No, go ahead.
Oh, we
Sorry.
did not have a meeting this month, but
Okay.
Bridget did report on
Yeah.
what we know to be the latest.
All right. Then we'll go to number 14. List of bills and additions, recommendation to review and accept payment of the accounts payable according to the list and supplemental list presented by city staff. I need a motion on that.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
Gary makes a motion. How about a second? Shannon seconds it. Any discussion on it? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Number 15, general questions and comments from city council. Fran?
Do you think with the police department and everything, what's going on is starting to bother me? Do you think we should have a workshop or something that we can sit down and see if we can repair these problems before they get so bad we can't?
It's not us. It's not us.
I know it, but I
There's
mean, we
nothing
still
we
gotta
can-
discuss a plan.
But there's nothing we can repair. It's, I really believe it's not us. It's not our department. It's not.
Yeah, I think Shannon's kind of right. I
It's
think
not-
it's,
It's
we
not
have
the
to go
mentality
through
that's
a,
coming from us. It's,
this whole cycle is gonna go through,
Yeah. What happens if they all quit?
we don't know.
we don't, that could happen.
Okay.
I hope it doesn't, but, you mean a backup
But
plan?
I mean, chief,
Well, I'm just going
There's-
like, there's some issues that the city has or something that we're not, that's, I mean, I've been watching other stuff the city's been doing and something, and I'm just going by, it's, should we have backup plan, or is there something at least we can talk about it to maybe, everybody in the city of Cold Spring with the police department with us, that we're okay with what we're doing, So I guess that's where I'm at.
And, I mean, I would be happy to sit down as a group and discuss concerns, and go over things as much as I possibly could, trying to explain. I'm fine, absolutely fine
Okay.
doing that.
That's, the thing was with Doug, now we got another full-time, and then the meeting before that, I asked for, like, our budget, kind of what Doug was going by. I was just going like, if we have a workshop, if there's monies there to have a full-time, let's do that, because it would be more for somebody to get a job, well, we're gonna work there full-time. But I would like to go, and if we have money, and discuss it with ourselves and with you, and go like, yeah, maybe the 3 part-time and stuff, maybe we can substitute it, or I just go like with my business, I always gotta have a backup plan, And most of the time I never use it, but it's there,
Shannon?
So let's say, did each of the officers that have left recently or resigned, have they been given an exit survey?
Not yet.
Okay. Because that would hold a lot of information that you might be interested in, because then you can realize that it either, is it a management thing? Is
Yeah.
it a supervisory, issue? Is it the mentality? Is it just the simplest thing as the atmosphere of how police are projected at this time? No? So,
Well, that's what I was wondering.
yeah,
Like you were going, like you were saying, it's not our fault. I know that, but in about way, we're part of that fault. No matter who we are, we're part of that. But to discuss it anyway, and to find out that there isn't something like the police department. That we're running into. Is there somebody in the department that is causing it, but isn't causing it, like you were talking
well,
about?
yeah, so
And to
if we
talk
could,
about that,
if we could see if there's any correlation on the exit interviews, that there would be any correlation that we should be concerned about, then of course, yes. Then we should be moving forward with taking care of whatever that may be.
And that's the part I'm going by.
But
Is it something about me? Like this, well, that Councilman Rambler.
He just got on.
He just-
If that's
he never lets you go
If
home.
that's the issue, well, then
But-
let's talk about, compromise, I guess also. Is there some compromise?
But is
What
it,
Fran said, it could be something as simple as wages.
Yes.
I know for a fact, the construction world now is boom, everybody knows that. You can make big money in the construction world, and you're not putting your life on the line every day.
Right.
Without reading an exit study, whether it's officers that left here or officers that left elsewhere,
Yeah.
that's a big question, or
Yeah.
topic is wages.
And I'm also going by that, a heck of a strain we're putting on the chief of police, because as it gets less and less, all of a sudden we're gonna start going like this, and we gotta, we also gotta know that he's comfortable what he's doing, and what is it is. But I just feel maybe if we, I learned this from my wife, let's talk about it. So,
you
Gary.
guys talk way too much.
Fran, that's why I asked the question of the chief at the last meeting. If it were a more perfect world, what would you tell us you need? And I'm relying on that guy right there to tell us honestly what he needs to make a successful department. And whatever that is, I'm willing to support because I have to believe in his abilities and his capabilities and his ability to lead the department properly. Otherwise, there's no point in having a police chief or a fire chief. And that's why I support. If he says I need 2 full-time people, I will support that. And I know that might frustrate taxpayers, but you know, that's just the way it is in this environment. We've had 2 full-time officers and 2 part-time officers resign in what, 4 weeks?
Roughly the last month or so.
Yeah, and so I think as a council, we have to support this chief as much as we possibly can and not second guess him
Yeah.
like some individuals do when we have a discussion about, well, couldn't you get by with 3 part-timers?
Yeah.
You know, if he's telling me I need 2 full-time, then that's what I'm going to support.
Should we just talk about just placing Cold Spring again, like a couple
Okay.
years ago?
Relative to that, I'm guessing, and Bridget can help us understand more clearly, but I would assume there's a number of questions that we aren't at liberty to ask because of confidentiality. You know, do you have infighting in the department? And if you do, who are those officers? I don't know that we can ask that question, Bridget. I don't know that we can because of,
Yeah.
you know, you're the city administrator.
There's some
The
HR
chief
rules
and
that we
you
have
can
to.
have those discussions, and you can bring in the city attorney if necessary, but anyone else, I would say that's quite confidential. So I don't think we're going to learn much in that area. I understand and respect what you're saying,
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, I just, even if we don't do it, that is fine, but
yeah.
I guess I've been a problem solver all my life with the business that I have, and again, to me, this thing's a problem, and I'm trying to solve it. And,
Yeah.
and all the things that, no matter what I did all my life, I was always sent out to do the mediation and to do the problem solving, even of all that big equipment we worked on. If they had a problem with it, let's get Fran, he's going to solve that. So I have that in me
Sure.
again, and I'm just seeing a problem,
Yeah.
and I'm going like, now my instincts are coming back, and it's going like, yeah, I'd like
Yeah.
to maybe solve it, but if I can't, if it's none of my business, like you said, that's fine too.
But I think the biggest way we can do it just right in this moment is supporting Chief Bloom.
Mm-hmm.
So,
All of them.
yeah, and the rest of the department, and so just showing support to them and letting them know that we appreciate them and
Yeah,
that,
and make them feel like they're wanted, and also if they have issues, that, like you said, we support them, that not that they're sitting out there by themselves.
I would,
And it's
yeah,
all police departments around here. They need that.
I want them to know that they are safe in their
Mhm.
communities just as much as they keep us safe in our community. So,
And you just, no,
Because
You just asked
I
me,
think it's an
now you-
environment thing right now.
it's,
Because they're leaving and not going into another police officer job. They're going out of that. It's an environment. I don't think it has
but
anything
we
to do
still
with.
need those kind of people,
Yes.
Absolutely.
We still need those,
Yep.
Just like we need firemen. This thing
we
is
do, but it's,
If the fire department, half of them resigned
it,
because they were afraid that somebody drive by while they're putting out a fire is going to do something, so,
but if someone drove by and started shooting up firemen,
yeah,
You're probably going to see firemen
you're gonna see
quitting.
firemen quit.
yeah.
That's like,
Same thing will
if this is
happen.
happening on a regular basis, so,
Mhm.
like,
Even
besides the
doctors are
fact,
quitting. Even doctors are.
yeah, besides the fact, I think we show support, we have a plan with what we have now, and then if something comes up, we can always do a workshop or talk more about it and make sure that we're not too short-staffed or we're not putting too much pressure on the individuals that we have out there doing their job.
If
So-
like the exit questionnaire or survey comes back something other than the environment, I mean, then I think we should have a
Right,
then I
of
believe
course,
we
there'd
should
be
have-
more
have
discussion
a-
too.
Yeah, we should have a
And,
workshop on it and figure it out. from
yeah,
there.
and like I said, I want to make sure that everyone that's picking up all these shifts isn't going to be overly stressed. You know, I mean, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be going on. So,
I just don't want to do nothing either.
Mhm.
I just don't want to sit back and watch everything happen and do nothing. And
Yeah.
I'm a citizen and everything, and I love this country, and I would like to do something to help it. I have
Yeah. Yeah,
three
I
brothers in
agree,
Vietnam.
and I
I've
think,
had 3 brothers in Vietnam and everything, and what they offered is so, it's like, I would like to help, and I just I don't want to sit back and just, you know, say, you do what you want, I want to do something.
you are here. You're doing something.
I think let's, my opinion, I think let's see what this all brings, get a police officer on and let them get settled down a little bit. Hopefully nothing else happens or nobody else quits, and then we can go on but if something does happen, yeah, I agree. Let's have a workshop and figure it out.
Okay, that's all I'm
Okay.
going by, so.
Okay.
Oh, I'm done, don't ask me anything.
I know.
No, thanks for the input.
Okay, so where were we?
We're on
It's
to
your turn.
your turn. Yeah. General questions, your turn.
No, I have no questions.
That was
I mean,
Fran.
like zero.
Nothing? How about Gary?
No, I've said enough tonight.
And I have nothing. Number 16, motion for adjournment.
I make a motion.
Brad makes a motion. How about a second?
I'll second.
Gary seconds it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against, motion carries. Thank you guys very much.
And